Hello and welcome to the Crone Zone. We have a new moon in Gemini coming up on the 6th, which can only add to the very speeded up volume of information that we have coming in at the moment. There's an awful lot of communication going on, but it's one particular kind of communication that I want to focus on, and that is prompted by the electoral campaigns that are going on, because here in Britain we have an election coming up on the 4th of July. And I know that there are elections this year in quite a few parts of the world, so we're not alone in this. It's a theme that's coming up, and obviously our airwaves, our televisions, our internet, absolutely flooded with messages at the moment from politicians of different stripes and parties. I did a very quick pull of a couple of cards concerning the election, and it was interesting what came up. So let's look at the two cards that I got. And the first was the devil. I thought that raised some interesting considerations here. And the other that I got was the Six of Cups. Interesting pair there, I thought. Very interesting indeed, considering that we're drawing on an election here. So let's look first of all at this card, the Devil, and how I see this as being relevant to the election. Well, with the devil, it's often a case of where we give away our power, where we are controlled or where we control. So, straight away, we can see that this might have something to do with elections, with governments. Also, it's about where people perhaps seek to control us, have power over us. And I think that's an interesting point and one which needs exploring here. So, if we think that our greatest sort of task and purpose in life is to individuate, that means taking responsibility for ourselves and believing in our own sovereignty and power. If we give that away to others, if we believe that others can do this for us, then we put ourselves in their power. Now, obviously, in society, we have to have social structures. We have to have organisations that are greater than the individual that carry out essential social functions. I understand that. But it seems to me that too often in the past and in the present, people who've sought office in government have not necessarily been doing so out of a true and genuine desire to be a public servant, which is what I think politicians and leaders should be. Often it's been about their own glorification. Or even if they've begun with good intentions, once they've got into office, those have become clouded with the issue of simply holding power and wanting to keep holding it. The devil is also about mirror games and projections, scapegoats. And we see a lot of that during election campaigns. This person is to blame for this, or all faults of any party, all parties are projected onto the opposition. There's polarization. They're to blame, we're right, they're wrong. So all of those projections, scapegoating, again, is very much the province of the devil. And we see quite a lot of that going on, obviously, in all political campaigns. I think it behooves us really to examine very carefully for ourselves and think for ourselves about some of the concepts and some of the ideas that get floated around from any direction. I'm not taking directions here. I'm looking at us as individuals and how we can give our power away in the wrong way to the wrong people. So now I'd like to examine the other card which I pulled, which was the rather dreamy, nostalgic Six of Cups. This is rose coloured glasses, or can be, looking at the past with rose coloured glasses. It's a little distorted. It's things that potentially can be too good to be true. And it's childhood, and I want to pick up on that theme in a moment or two as well. Too good to be true. I think that's something we have to watch out for with all election campaigns. You know, the promises that can be made that sound too good to be true, because they are. Words are cheap. People can promise anything, can't they? And then once they're in office, they don't necessarily make good on those promises. So I think that's an aspect here. But also, I'd like to pick up on the element of childhood with this card. I think we're being called as a species, really, to wake up and to grow up. And it occurs to me that our society as a collective has suffered for thousands of years some sort of Stockholm syndrome. You know, this idea that you grow to side with the very people who have captured you and oppressed you, and you start to sort of be on board with them, because it's the only way that you can see to survive. I think also of children who continue to love their abusive parents or guardians, or people who perhaps have been very unkind to them, because they have no other means of survival. And I'm looking at the way we've been governed and ruled in the past, you know, that we've gone from monarchies and dictators and very, very powerful governments, and people being disenfranchised, women being disenfranchised until really quite recently. And I'm looking at this idea that somehow daddy, big brother, the government, the leader, you know, this daddy figure is going to take care of us. And perhaps there is a propensity in us as a species to put our trust into what appears to be strength. I think, in a way, we must guard against that, because it can be a form of laziness, of not being our own sovereign being, letting that person carry the mantle of the ruler, the leader. I think we see this with our society's obsession with celebrities. It's a form of laziness. It's a form of us not being who we should really be, and allowing some other person to carry that torch for us and just be little hangers on, you know, little admirers hanging on to that. So I suppose the message that I'm getting from these two cards is that these old days are done, aren't they? The times are changing. I feel that, and we're very much ready for a change, from this sort of top-down government to bottom up, where things are filtering up from the people, from us. And anyone who acts on the behalf of the collective is there in trust, and is there with huge responsibility and public duty. It should be a job that people really hesitate to take on, because it's so enormous and because it carries such moral weight with it. So let's continue to hold the people who set themselves up in government very much to account. And let's not be foolishly believing that someone will protect our interests if we are not mindful of those as well, and if we are not making our voices, in the most peaceful of ways, but making our voices and our point of views very plain and very clear. So I'm sure we're all going to get heartily sick of the election campaign. Let's just be mindful of the many, many promises that can be made to us, and how far short people can fall of actually delivering them. So that's all I have to say. And I'll be back again soon. So thank you if you've listened this long.